The first project that we're going to tackle is to tie a path from the stairs of the deck right into the concrete patio. A lot of options out there. You can use gravel, you can use concrete, you can use natural stone that you place along as stepping stones, but I'm going to use something that I found at a trade show years ago that I've been anxious to use. It's called the Walkmaker Path System. Basically, heavy-duty plastic forms like this that you place right on the ground, put concrete in it, allow it to dry, and you can move it along to create as long a path as you want. Now notice there's quite a few of these that are available in different type of brick, running bond, basket weave. The kind we're using is the country stone pattern. And again, all you have to do is to prepare the ground, make sure it's packed pretty well. Then you just take the form, place it right on the ground, pour your concrete, pack it in place, allow it to dry, and you can move it from place to place. You only need a couple of these to create any size path that you want. We have several of them to pick up the pace a little bit, and to make it a little more interesting, we're going to add color to the concrete mix. This Quikrete tinting solution is stirred into the water that will be used to mix the concrete. So for consistency, it's important to use the same amount of water each time you mix a batch. Mixing the concrete itself is really the hardest part of the work because there's so much of it to do. One 80-pound bag of dry concrete makes enough to fill a little more than one Walkmaker form. Speaking of those, since we have a few extra, we use them to rough out the shape of the path and then find the center point. Starting there will let us pour 2 forms at once we get going. As Tim shovels the mud out, I pack it into the forms and scrape off all of the excess with a screed board. A brush or broom dragged across the drying concrete gives it a slightly textured finish, and once we feel like it's ready, the form comes off. The next form is butted up to the first stone, and the process is repeated again and again until we reach the ends. We pour 2 extra forms separate from the rest so that they'll dry overnight. Then we can use the individual stones to fill the gaps at the steps and the patio where a whole form just wouldn't fit. We also adjust some of the individual stones within the path to even out the gaps we created by arching the pathway. A little new sod on either side of the path will help contain the joining mix that goes on next. Now this stuff, called PowerLock, is also from Quikrete, and it's a polymer modified sand that binds together when it gets wet, so it stays put and holds everything in place. The final step is to lightly mist all of the stones in the joining sand to lock all of that in place. And of course, with all this new sod we have, we need to water it in thoroughly anyway.